Shiloh Jolie is officially stepping out of the shadows, and she is making a massive statement, one that has the entire internet divided and talking. Let's get right into it. Recently, 20-year-old Shiloh, whom Brad Pitt, 62, shares with his ex-wife Angelina Jolie, was spotted at a Los Angeles farmer's market with her younger sister, Vivienne Jolie. On the surface, it looked like a totally normal, low-key sister outing. Shiloh was seen rocking a super casual, comfortable fit, a gray sweatshirt with the hood pulled up, dark gray sweatpants, and a pair of matching Crocs. But it wasn't the outfit that caught everyone's attention. Shiloh was rocking an edgy, center-placed lip ring on her bottom lip. Now, this isn't exactly the very first time the famous offspring has been spotted with this facial piercing, but it firmly signals a brand new era of independence. Remember her surprise appearance right before her 20th birthday? Shiloh literally shocked the world when she appeared in the music video for Dae-Young's single What's a Girl to Do. In that clip, the then 19-year-old sported two tight braids tucked into a low bun, proving she is carving out her own artistic path in the entertainment industry. What's even crazier about this? According to a representative from Starship Entertainment, Shiloh actually earned her spot through an open casting call for dancers. She was selected in the final round, and the directors literally had no idea she was the child of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie until after filming Rat, meaning she secured the job entirely on her own merit. But while Shiloh is securing music video roles and experimenting with alternative aesthetics, there is a much heavier storyline playing out behind the scenes. The Jolie-Pitt kids are actively severing ties with their father's legacy. Shiloh, who is undeniably the spitting image of both her 51-year-old mother and her father, recently made a massive legal move. Shortly after turning 18, she filed a petition in Los Angeles to legally drop her father's last name, and she isn't alone in this rebellion. Vivienne, Zahara, Maddox, and Knox have all dropped their father's surname as well, leaving Pax Jolie-Pitt as the only one of the former couple's 6 children still utilizing the Moneyball star's name. Naturally, the internet has completely exploded over this transformation and the family division. The comment sections are an absolute Wild West right now. While some users are just genuinely curious about her style choices, asking questions like, "What's the purpose of that piercing?" Others are taking it to a shockingly toxic extreme. We are seeing brutally harsh comments from people calling the children adulterous seeds and aggressively claiming they are just as bad as their birther. It is a vicious, unfiltered reminder of how ruthless the public eye can be for kids who never asked to be thrust into the spotlight. So, what is really going on inside the Jolie household right now? Is this lip ring and new aesthetic just a phase, or is it the ultimate symbol of Shiloh finally taking control of her own identity after years of bitter, highly publicized family lawsuits? Keep watching, because today we are breaking down everything you need to know about this ongoing drama. To truly understand the magnitude of Shiloh Jolie's current evolution, one must first recognize the unprecedented magnifying glass under which she has spent her entire existence. From the very moments of her birth, an event that commanded the attention of the global press corps to such an extreme degree that international airspace was restricted, she was never afforded the basic luxury of a private, sheltered childhood. She was the first biological manifestation of Hollywood's most intoxicating and heavily chronicled romance, a physical amalgamation of two cinematic titans whose every move dictated pop culture. For years, the public relentlessly projected their own narratives onto her, scrutinizing her haircuts, her clothing choices, and her shifting aesthetics as if analyzing a public monument rather than a developing, vulnerable human being. Yet, as she crosses the threshold into her 20s, we are witnessing a profound and deliberate reclamation of self. The recent sighting at a Los Angeles farmer's market alongside her younger sister, Vivienne, was not merely a convenient paparazzi photo opportunity. It was a vivid portrait of a young woman actively dismantling the pristine, untouchable celebrity facade she inherited at birth. The visual of Shiloh in a gray hoodie, dark sweatpants, and matching Crocs is strikingly ordinary, and perhaps that is precisely the point she's trying to make. In an ecosystem where celebrity offspring are often ushered into high-fashion campaigns and lucrative branding deals before they can legally drive a car, her deliberate embrace of normalcy, comfort, and anonymity speaks volumes about her character. It's a quiet but powerful rejection of the relentless glitz that defined her parents' joint era, a firm refusal to be packaged, marketed, and sold as a glamorous extension of the monolithic Jolie-Pitt brand. She is demanding the right to be entirely unremarkable in her day-to-day life, which ironically makes her one of the most fascinating figures in modern Hollywood. This relentless pursuit of personal autonomy is most visibly punctuated by the center lip piercing she now wears with effortless confidence. While a piece of alternative facial jewelry might seem like a standard, even cliché rite of passage for many young adults entering their rebellious phase, for someone of Shiloh's highly specific lineage, it serves as a distinct, uncrossable boundary line. It's a physical declaration of absolute ownership over her own body and her own image. The public has long been obsessively fixated on pointing out how much she resembles her father's famously chiseled jawline or her mother's captivating eyes, often reducing her to a mere genetic echo of two legendary actors. The piercing aggressively disrupts that perfectly expected reflection. It introduces a sharp edge, a touch of grit, and a deeply personal aesthetic choice that belongs to her and her alone, completely outside of her parents' influence. When commenters inevitably ask what the purpose of such a piercing is, as we saw in the visceral and often cruel reactions online, they are entirely missing the fundamental point of self-expression. The purpose is the very fact that she chose it for herself. It represents a bodily autonomy that cannot be dictated by nervous publicists or heavily curated by outdated Hollywood standards of beauty. This subtle physical rebellion aligns perfectly with her broader trajectory over the past few years, systematically moving away from the manufactured spectacles of red carpet premieres and leaning heavily toward a more grounded, authentic expression of who she is when the cameras are turned off. It acts as the armor of a young woman navigating a deeply complicated, highly scrutinized family dynamic while simultaneously attempting to carve out a singular, independent identity in a world that simply refuses to look away. But perhaps the most compelling evidence of Shiloh's fierce desire to exist strictly on her own terms is her recent, highly successful foray into the professional commercial dance world. In a cultural era completely dominated by the exhausting discourse surrounding nepotism babies, where the children of the Hollywood elite are frequently handed lucrative careers, magazine covers, and starring roles on a silver platter without having to prove their competence, Shiloh took a radically different, far more difficult approach. Her unexpected appearance in the music video for Daeyoung's hit single was not the result of a behind-the-scenes phone call from her powerful mother or a favor called in by a Hollywood agent. Instead, it was earned through the grueling, anonymous, and highly competitive process of an open audition. The fact that representatives from Starship Entertainment and the directors themselves had absolutely no idea they were casting international Hollywood royalty until after the camera stopped rolling is a massive, undeniable testament to her raw talent and her unwavering dedication to her craft. She did not want to be cast as a viral gimmick to boost YouTube views. She wanted to be hired solely because she was the best dancer in the room. In that video, sporting two tight braids and a low bun, she wasn't Shiloh, the famous tabloid fixture. She was an anonymous artist flawlessly executing complex choreography. Dance, by its very nature, demands intense physical discipline, emotional vulnerability, and a deep connection to oneself, qualities that absolutely cannot be inherited through DNA or bought with a trust fund. Through the medium of dance, Shiloh has found a safe sanctuary, a physical language through which she can communicate her deepest emotions and frustrations without ever having her spoken words twisted or taken out of context by the hungry press. It is a fiercely independent achievement that firmly establishes her as a creative force in her own right, entirely divorced from the massive cinematic shadows continuously cast by her world-famous parents. This desire for separation seamlessly brings us to the most defining and legally binding statement of her newly minted adulthood, the systematic shedding of the Pitt surname. A name is never just a random string of letters utilized for identification. It is a heavy legacy, an inescapable inheritance, and a permanent anchor to one's family history. For Shiloh, filing a formal petition in Los Angeles shortly after celebrating her 18th birthday to legally drop her father's last name was a seismic, earth-shattering shift in the ongoing, never-ending Brangelina narrative. This was not the impulsive, fleeting act of a temperamental teenager throwing a tantrum, but a highly calculated, legally sophisticated maneuver by a newly minted adult fully exercising her legal rights. The fact that reports suggest she hired and paid for her own independent lawyer to facilitate this monumental change underscores the deep-seated intentionality and finality behind the move. She is fundamentally altering her legal identity on paper, permanently distancing herself from a powerful patriarch whose relationship with his older children has become the subject of intense, often dark speculation and relentless, grueling legal battles over international estates and wineries. What is truly striking about this entire situation is the overwhelming solidarity among the siblings in this quiet, unified exodus, with Vivienne, Zahara, Maddox, and Knox all reportedly dropping the surname in various professional and personal capacities, leaving only Pax still carrying it on paper. A phenomenally powerful collective statement is being made to the world. They are pulling together, circling the wagons, protecting their internal peace, and consciously choosing the environment and the parent that has consistently provided them with stability and safety. The shedding of the name is a visceral rejection of the trauma associated with the bitter, highly publicized divorce that has unfortunately consumed the most formative years of their youth. It is a profound Shakespearean tragedy that a family unit once globally celebrated as the absolute pinnacle of multiculturalism and modern love has fractured so deeply and irreparably, but Shiloh's decisive legal action reflects a desperate, entirely necessary pivot toward personal healing and emotional self-preservation. Unavoidably, this intensely personal family reckoning is playing out in the unforgiving, wildly unregulated arena of the internet, where human empathy is often entirely absent and cruelty is rewarded with likes and engagement. The online discourse surrounding Shiloh's deeply personal choices, particularly regarding her family dynamics and her changing physical appearance, reveals a disturbing underbelly of parasocial entitlement among the general public. When we closely examine the harsh, vitriolic comments flooding social media platforms and YouTube comment sections, vile remarks labeling these young adults as adulterous seeds or cruelly comparing them to the worst mistakes of their parents' past controversies, we are actively witnessing generational trauma being weaponized for cheap public entertainment. Complete strangers, emboldened by the dark anonymity of a glowing screen, feel entirely justified in hurling venom at a young woman simply because they feel they have owned a piece of her life story since she was developing in the womb. These entitled commenters demand exhaustive explanations for a simple lip ring and aggressively pass sweeping moral judgments on a complex familial estrangement they know absolutely nothing about behind closed doors. It highlights the deeply toxic, predatory nature of modern celebrity culture, where the genuine pain of a broken home is continuously commodified into profitable clickbait. Yet, Shiloh's silent, steadfast resilience in the face of this overwhelming vitriol is incredibly powerful to witness. She does not issue defensive public statements through high-priced publicists. She does not engage in petty social media warfare on Instagram or TikTok, and she does not offer lengthy explanations to a public that has fundamentally misunderstood her from day one. She simply continues to frequent local farmers markets, aggressively train in her dance classes, challenges and live her life with a quiet, impenetrable defiance. Her absolute refusal to engage with the toxicity is a masterclass in modern boundary setting. She is quietly teaching an entire generation of observers that you do not owe the world an explanation for your trauma, nor do you owe them your forced conformity to make them feel more comfortable. As we continue to watch Shiloh Jolie navigate this incredibly complex, highly transitional chapter of her young life, it becomes abundantly clear that she is not merely surviving her chaotic circumstances. She is actively and brilliantly authoring a completely new narrative for herself. The edgy facial piercings, the notoriously casual streetwear, the undercover merit-based dance auditions, and the monumental legal decision to permanently change her name are not disparate, random events born out of adolescent confusion. They are the tightly interconnected building blocks of a meticulously constructed, highly independent life strategy. She is actively dismantling the heavy, suffocating inherited legacy of Hollywood's former golden couple and replacing it with something entirely of her own making. It is an inherently messy, deeply imperfect, and intensely scrutinized process, but it is undeniably fiercely authentic. For the millions of viewers watching this familial saga continuously unfold on their screens, the true lasting value lies not in the cheap gossip of who is legally feuding with whom, but rather in the deeply universal themes of coming of age, seeking pure autonomy, and finding the immense courage required to break dark generational cycles. Shiloh is showing us exactly what it looks like to bravely walk away from a prescribed destiny that was written for you before you could even speak. She is emphatically proving that even when you are born into a glaring, blinding spotlight that you never once asked for, you still retain the ultimate power to decide where that light shines and what parts of your soul it illuminates. Her ongoing journey is a profound, beautifully human reminder that our identities are not forever tethered to the names we are arbitrarily given at birth or the heavy expectations projected upon us by a watching world. As she moves confidently forward into her 20s, completely unapologetic and fiercely self-determined, Shiloh Jolie is no longer just the famous daughter of movie stars caught in a crossfire. She is a dedicated artist, a quiet survivor, and an exceptionally strong, independent woman defining her own unshakable worth in a world that has never, ever stopped watching her every move.